Hello there. Welcome to my household here, Mike's MMA Picks. Welcome as we take a look and take a trip to the fridge. Want to wish everybody a fantastic evening as they prepare to embark upon all that is Dana White's Contender Series this evening on Tuesday. And while you're preparing to do that, I think it's also important that we take a trip to the fridge. And what does that mean? What constitutes a fridge-worthy matchup, you might ask? I've uh, been dabbling with putting plays on my refrigerator for a number of years now to remind myself when odds are released, when there's an opportunity, we must strike. And what constitutes a fridge-worthy matchup? That's another question you might ask yourself. Now, it might be a smash spot. It might be a powder keg matchup. It might be a heated rivalry. For instance, Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington. That will be happening in the near future. And there are many, many matchups that are fridge-worthy. The potential for an early knockout, the potential for a doctor stoppage, the potential for fireworks. And we're targeting fights that could potentially end inside the distance, spots where there's the potential for a violent finish, a statement that's made, a dominant performance. And look no further than the fridge right over here. If you can make out the faces of those fighters, you'll see Khamzat Chimaev. You'll also see John Jones over there. You'll see Shavkat Rakhmonov. Is there Stephen Wonderboy Thompson there? I see him as well. We see Islam Makhachev, Charles Oliveira. And then at the top of the fridge, I see flyweights. I see Alexandre Pantoja and Brandon Royval, who are running it back. A rematch, folks. UFC 296. Wow. So I want to welcome everyone to the first episode of A Trip to the Fridge with your friendly neighborhood handicapper, Mike's MMA Picks. So we're here, and it's fitting that I hold this cup up here because one fight that I have spent months waiting for the odds to drop and looking for a time to strike, and the matchup that's at the top of the fridge over there, you have Alexandre Pantoja, who's coming off of a split decision victory over Brandon Moreno. And that fight went 5 rounds, went deep. Both fighters had their moments, and Pantoja gave his phenomenal post-fight speech. Now, he's taking on a fighter in Brandon Royval, who came up short the last time they fought. I was on Brandon Royval when he fought Matthias Nicolau. I believe we got in on Royval at plus 180 there. And the first time these two fighters fought, Brandon Royval and Alexandre Pantoja, I was on Pantoja. And I watched that fight back numerous times. The pace was pushed, frenetic pace. Scrambles galore. And you saw the back-taking ability of Pantoja in full effect. He had to fight hard. He had to dig deep, and he came out the other side with a victory. Now, it's the year 2023. Pantoja recently turned 33 years of age. You have Brandon Royval, who may not be necessarily the best striker in the world, takes a lot of risks, has been injured during fights in the past. You remember the Moreno bout where he dislocated his shoulder. You remember the Kai Kara France matchup where it looked like the Tasmanian devil was running wild in there. And who came out the other side victorious? Brandon Royval. I just made a play on. Let's cut to the chase. I just made a play on Brandon Royval at plus 205. And that's a 1-unit play. So I'm picking Brandon Royval to defeat Alexandre Pantoja at UFC 296, which should be a fantastic flyweight matchup. If you've seen my track record for flyweight fights, third-party tracked, dating all the way back to 2016, been cashing at an 80% clip. Granted, I did take a loss the last time we had a matchup at flyweight when Alexandre Pantoja defeated Brandon Moreno. I was on Brandon Moreno that time out. So that's the beauty of being third-party tracked, is there's nowhere to hide. You lose, you come out, you own it. You win, you come out, you own it. You ditch your third-party tracked record, and what do you have for you? You can swipe that loss under the rug and act like it never even happened. But in this spot, I'm going to be picking Brandon Royval to defeat Alexandre Pantoja at UFC 296, a flyweight matchup. Looking forward to that bout. Let's talk a few other fights here while I have you. We've got a few minutes to kill before the Dana White's Contender Series installment number 63, I believe it is, or 64. They're really putting in lots of episodes. And one thing about the Contender Series matchups, you see a lot of folks throw caution to the wind. They fight uncharacteristically. What you watch on tape isn't necessarily what you see inside of the octagon, because a lot of folks are trying their best to impress Dana White, and they are going to throw caution to the wind. They're going to be paying attention to being risk averse. They're going to take risks, and it takes two to tango inside of the octagon. So you're going to see vulnerabilities at stake. And remember, what are the three components of a crucial mixed martial arts bout? And you have handicappers. You've got the stakes are high, emotions run strong, and opinions vary, my brothers. So with that, and that's what we have tonight, especially in the main event of the evening. But let's take a look at the comment section here before we talk and dig a little bit deeper. Welcome, Trey. Who is that on there? Is that Daryl Dawkins that you had on your avatar there? It's fridge time. Yes. Godinez versus Ricci. By the way, I'd like for you, if you have a moment, to go into the chat box and mention, don't be shy, mention the matchups that you have on your respective fridge at your domicile. Let's see. Nick, you're hungry. Hopefully you had something good. I just had some mussels and also some French onion soup. Put that back. Year of the Raw Dog. Well, Brandon Royval, that is his nickname, and I believe that he is going to come out on top there. Now, Alex Pereira taking on Yuri Prochazka. Yes, that is on the fridge. Excellent call, Shady. Excellent call. That is a fight that it's amazing. You watch back, by the way, let's mention a few things here. Just because a fight ends up on the fridge doesn't necessarily mean that it won't hit the scorecards. There are fights occasionally that end up hitting the scorecards. Remember, one of the most incredible things that I was ever privileged to witness was Paulo Costa taking on Yoel Romero. Go back and watch that fight. In fact, after I get off the stream, I'm going to go to the well and share some clips from that bout. That was one of the most incredible performances, athletic feats by both men They went to war. They went to war in that bout and ended up hitting the scorecards. Remember, Yuri Prochazka took on Glover Teixeira. That ended up going all 5 rounds. For Pete's sake, Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler went 3 full rounds. So you have Khamzat Chimaev taking on Paulo Costa in Abu Dhabi, I might add. That is a fight that is on the fridge. I have risk 1 unit at minus 330, but I'm keeping an eye on the line. I believe that's a dollar cost average situation where you could potentially play inside the distance. There are a number of ways to attack that card. I'm on Chimaev, but I also realize that Paulo Costa is the real deal. He really put it on Luke Rockhold. That fight ended up going the distance. Who would have thunk it, right? Paulo Costa, impressive performance there, but also it comes at a cost. And this guy cuts so much weight to get down to that limit. And you have a Khamzat Chimaev who has had 12 full months to get himself acclimated to the middleweight division. I know he's fought previously at 185 pounds, but he's back up there now. And you have to understand that he's been packing on a lot of muscle, and also the strength, the grappling is going to be on Chimaev's side here, but I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to that. Now we've got a few other comments here. Pantoja wins. We'll see about that. I believe at plus 205 odds, we have a 32.8% win implied probability. And I believe that Royval wins at a much higher clip. Royval was looking like he was about to take over before he got subbed. And I was holding a Pantoja ticket in that match, and I was like, "Whoa, man!" But he had the back take, he had the body triangle locked up, I believe, and then sunk in that rear naked choke, and it was impressive. It was impressive, yes. But Pantoja's father, you think about that post-fight victory speech. That was something that really stays on the mind. Lou, I had a great time on your show last week. Thank you. Appreciate you. Let's see. Protect your bankroll. Yes, that is. We pick our spots here. We pick our spots. Let's see. We talked about Costa versus Chimaev, Leon versus Colby. By the way, I mean, this fight, Colby Covington versus Leon Edwards, does take place in Las Vegas. And by the way, Leon he's been waiting. He's been pushing this off. And finally, he signed the contract. And now all systems go. Honestly, I believe there's some value here on Colby Covington. I know he is no spring chicken. He is getting up there in age. So that's something that we must acknowledge. And I believe a pace is going to be pushed, perhaps an unsustainable pace. And we might see, as we've seen in the past, we know that Leon Edwards, I mean, he dominated against Nate Diaz and others, but sometimes it comes at a cost. If he's pushed, and he's pushed from a grappling perspective, he could potentially run into a situation where he ends up gassing out, because we know Colby's not going to gas out. Blades versus Almeida. Yes. Jailton Almeida taking on Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades, who was blown out of the water by Sergey Pavlovich. And you watch that bout back. Blades, one half-assed takedown attempt, and that was it. The lights went out, and he was nowhere to be found. Now he's coming back. This has happened to Curtis Blades, who's an incredibly talented fighter, but it's happened to him time and time and time again. It's a cause for concern. I do have a cause for concern regarding Curtis Blades. I know he's got a great wrestling, or at least MMA wrestling background. Man. And then Jailton Almeida, we know he's a force to be reckoned with, but I wish, as far as his management goes, some fighters have the roughest of roads to get where they are. And then you have Jailton Almeida, who's had a pretty much a cakewalk since coming to the UFC. I know on Contender Series he had a tough fight, but after that, he's really walked through a lot of folks. Chimaev versus Costa. Questions will be answered about Khamzat's physical presence at 185 pounds. I totally agree with you. We will see. And I believe this fight happening in Abu Dhabi, we've seen he's received almost a hero's welcome out there. This is Chimaev's fight to win. And Costa, his transformation is incredible. I have no idea how that guy does it. He must have some phenomenal doctors to pull it off. Thank you. Nope, no ballyhoo around here, around these parts. You're looking forward to Benoit Saint Denis versus Matt Frivola, a local fighter. I've seen Matt fight in person multiple times. I was at his UFC fight at Madison Square Garden, where he fought to a draw against Venata, Lando Venata. And I was on Venata in that spot, and I had a newfound respect for Matt Frivola and his, not only his striking, but also his grappling ability and his motor and his chin and the pace that he was able to push. And now he's taking on Benoit Saint Denis, who, what can you say? That guy is a hell of a motor also. The way he throttled his American top team opponent last time out and just ran through him, that was a sight to behold. A sight to behold. And Benoit Saint Denis is coming across the pond into Madison Square Garden, where he will hear the trumpets, Timmy Trumpet, and I believe that is going to set the crowd on fire. It should be incredible. Royval, you agree on Royval? Okay, let's see. Royval is built for 5 rounds. I'll tell you what. I may potentially add more on Royval as this fight gets closer. The challenge is when you play or work with 100 units in your bankroll at any given time, you have to be able to spread those 100 units around. If you don't, then you could potentially run into problems. So bankroll management is key, as I've mentioned many, many, many times before. Font versus Figueiredo is on your fridge. Great choice. Great choice. I agree with you. I agree with you there. And Figueiredo making his bantamweight debut at 135 pounds. What's going to happen? Can he handle the jab of Rob Font at range? Is he going to get inside? I don't trust Figueiredo's gas tank. Even at 135 pounds when he's going to be cutting a little bit less weight. But we'll see added size on the half of on the Figueiredo side. So interesting matchup. Looking forward to it. I initially lean Rob Font here, but I want to see these fighters on the scales before making a play on any side of that fight. Let's see. We've got Make America Great Again, Colby. Yes. Well, I'm sure the crowd will be on fire for that one. I'm going to be personally rooting for Colby Covington. I believe that he has waited a long time for this, and the Masvidal shenanigans that took place, the tomfoolery that took place, has now it's water under the bridge, and we'll see about that. Almeida training partner on Dana White's Contender Series tonight. Looking forward to that as well. Looking forward to it. Got to bounce soon, but can't wait for the next show. Thank you, Lefty, for tuning in. I appreciate you. Oh my gosh, 420 is in the house. You're the man. I have to get out to Vegas to the swim out there. Perhaps we'll take in a mixed martial arts event there, or inside of the Thomas Mack Center, or inside of the T-Mobile Arena. By the way, can you believe that Pride Fighting Championships back in 2007 held Pride 33, Pride Fighting Championships 33 inside of the Thomas and Mack Center. I was at that event, and I believe I've stayed at many, many, many hotels on the Strip there and around Las Vegas. It's a great fight town. Love it out there. Got to get back out soon. In fact, I'm planning a trip in November, so looking forward to a meet and greet with a number of folks in the chat here. Ferguson versus Patty. Is it Tony's time? Snap down, Sydney. Hey, we're pulling for Tony Ferguson, but what's really fascinating here, 420, is that Tony Ferguson, we must be honest with ourselves, he's on a 6-fight skid, 6-fight losing streak, and he's been finished multiple times. Tough pill to swallow. I know he's tough as nails, and I remember how he dug deep against Anthony Pettis, and now he's taking on Paddy Pimblett, who is not a highly skilled fighter. The UFC has really picked their spots with him. I like to pick my spots when I'm making bets, and the UFC has picked their spots when it comes to matchmaking for Paddy Pimblett. I thought that Paddy Pimblett lost to Jared Gordon, and you saw when it got to the judges, that was not to be. So now we must also let ourselves know that Paddy Pimblett is coming off of, I believe, a knee injury where he had surgery and he's recovering from that, and he'll be back shortly. So fascinating matchup. Now, let's get to a few other matchups that are eyes on the prize. Yes, let's get to a few other matchups. On the horizon, matchups that are on the fridge. I have Drew Dober taking on Ricky Glenn. Drew Dober, if you listen to Ricky Glenn's pre-fight interview, he has said that he knows Drew Dober is going to be coming out guns blazing. Now, Drew Dober coming off of a knockout loss to none other than Matt Frivola. So that should be an interesting bout where that ended up on my fridge. Another bout that ended up on my fridge was Joe Pyfer. Be like Joe Pyfer taking on Abdul Razak Al Hassan. I doubt that fight hits the scorecards. We have no odds released on it. I would guesstimate that the odds inside the fight doesn't go the distance on Pyfer. Abdul Razak Al Hassan will probably open around minus 400 or so. Let's see. The Hilton Alera is your spot. Excellent. And Paddy the Fatty. He does cut a massive amount of weight. Let's see a few other matchups we have here. Oh, we did not. How do we get this far into the podcast without mentioning John Jones taking on Stipe Miocic? I know Pyfer's minus 350 at the betting window, but take a look at the fight doesn't go the distance line. That should be some obscene number as well. Now, John Jones, who is coming off of a victory over Cyril Gane, and he's taking on Stipe Miocic here. And Miocic has been on the shelf for a long time. I have concerns. Concerns for Stipe Miocic in this spot. I played John Jones for 2.5 units, I believe, at minus 375. I know that's a lot of juice, but I see that John Jones, we know who he is at this stage in the game. As a Daniel Cormier fan and Daniel Cormier truther, this one hurts. But John Jones, I mean, we've seen what he's capable of inside of the octagon. Now, what are they going to give us for an under 1.5 Pyfer Al Hassan? Probably minus 180, minus 200 or so. That's what I think. Hey, you know what? I've already taped this fight. Chris Gutierrez versus Montel Jackson. And I got to tell you that the front leg of Montel Jackson could potentially get chewed up here. I am a big fan of Montel Jackson. I know that Brett John's loss really hurt. I was on Montel Jackson there. And Gutierrez, I know he is coming off of a loss to Pedro Munoz where he really was gun shy. Now he's going to come out here. He's going to have that lead leg of Montel Jackson there to just be chewed up. But Jackson's got to let his hands go. He can't sit back. He's got to use his wrestling. And I'm looking forward to that matchup. Yes, Montel, thank you for correcting your spelling. Montel Jackson is a solid fighter, still only 31 years of age. Everybody talks about his glove size. But he's a very talented fighter. Montel Jackson, that is. In that spot, I'm leaning Montel. But let's be honest with ourselves. Montel doesn't throw for heavy volume. He's coming off of a victory over Honey Yaya. So, I mean, Yaya's fade material at this stage in his respective career. And we haven't necessarily seen Jackson deal with leg kicks, at least to the level, to the degree that Chris Gutierrez will be delivering. That is a real issue. Moreno versus Buckley. Alex Moreno, and we've seen Alex Moreno put out cold many times in the past, but Moreno's a smart fighter. Listen to his interviews before he gets into the cage. He's got a great head on his shoulders, cerebral fighter, but he will throw caution to the wind as well. The Semmelsberger fight taught me a lot about Moreno. And Buckley, man, he has his moments. Imavov was piecing him up, but then you saw the longer the fight went, if you can't put Buckley out of there, if he's still around, he'll come back and bite you in the ass. Let's see what else I got here for you. Let's see. Oh, how about let's talk Shavkat Rakhmonov taking on Stephen Thompson. That's a fight that has landed on my respective fridge. It's been up there for a few days, and I'm in awe. Every time I go grab some orange juice for my sons, I'm like, holy goodness gracious. Shavkat Rakhmonov taking on Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. That is a reality. And now I believe it was Chicken Dinner, one of the Twitter users, said that they believe the fight is not going to take place. If it does go down, I mean, you have to respect Stephen Thompson. So much skin in the game. He's fought so hard, fought so many tough opponents, and people are getting on his case about not taking the fight against Michel Pereira. But let's be honest, Pereira was looking to gain a competitive advantage by coming in heavy in that matchup. That was clear as day. And Thompson opts not to take the fight. Now it's almost as if he's been punished by facing Shavkat Rakhmonov. By the way, if you wouldn't mind subscribing to the channel and also liking the video, that would be a big help for us. I'm at, I believe, 592 or 593 subscribers. Most of my work has been done over at the MMA Oddsbreaker YouTube channel. I have like multiple hundred 200 or 300 videos of breakdown shows over there, but also I've been putting out work here on my personal YouTube channel for a few years, and I believe I have almost 100 videos here on this channel, but 592 subscribers. Everyone counts, and the key here is I've been putting out free plays for a long time, and just we're trying to help folks win. That's the key here. And it gets started with, how about let's talk flyweights. Let's talk Chiras versus De Silva 2. And Lacerda, De Silva, a.k.a. Lacerda, I saw a different angle of the choke, and Chiras looked like he had it locked in on that alternate angle. And you had De Silva, who his arm, it did go limp. It did go limp. And man, a fifth time or sixth now time is a charm for Lacerda. He's got to get it done, or else he's going to get his walking papers. He's been fortunate to have this many walks to the octagon. And then you also have Jonathan Martinez taking on Yanez. Yanez, who took the loss to Rob Font, got pieced up on the feet. He had his moments too, stood in the pocket and got dropped and finished by Rob Font. Now Yanez, he's coming back here against Jonathan Martinez. Jonathan Martinez, it's an interesting spot because Martinez he's a striker by trade, and he will get dropped also. We saw against, I believe, Turbo Perez put him on his ass. Bobby Green. Now, we've seen Bobby Green. We know he's solid on the feet. He's going to roll with punches, but Grant Dawson, what is he going to do? He's going to close distance, look to put Bobby Green on the ground and then transition into a body lock, take the back of Bobby Green, and possibly choke him out. But closing the distance, that's going to be the tough part here for Grant Dawson. So he's got to mind his P's and Q's. That's an interesting next main event. And we have another week and a half. Yes, structure and discipline. Let's talk picking our spots. Let's talk taking a measured approach. Nobody in their right minds should be laying 20 to 30% of their respective bankroll on any given night. That is a recipe for disaster. Most folks are aware of that, but some folks who potentially could be paying for picks where folks are advocating to risk 20 to 30% of their bankroll. That's dangerous. Don't want to be doing that. Wow. Shady's on a roll here. Sabatini versus Lopez. Pat Sabatini is coming in here against Lopez, who last time out we saw that Movsar Evloev fight was no joke. That was not a falsehood. You saw against Gavin Tucker what Lopez is capable of. He was able to take care of business and do so in dramatic fashion. Crowd-pleasing fighter. Paul Craig. Brendan Allen. Now, Brendan Allen, what did he do? He turned down a fight, I believe, against Roman Dolidze, and now he ends up taking on a high-caliber fighter in Paul Craig, who's dangerous on the ground. We know that. So that's a great fight. Then Vicente Luque taking on Ian Gary. Looking forward to that as well. It's funny how teammates end up going against each other here when it works in Ian Gary's favor. Fascinating matchup. The fridge is covered. You're right. My wife's been complaining recently that the fridge is covered with so many fights, Mike. Calm down, Mike. One fight at a time. Grayson, you make a great point. I believe that's the best way to go about this. I want everybody to sit back, enjoy the Contender Series matchups tonight. Use it as a intelligence gathering experience. You don't necessarily need to fire away plays on the Contender Series. What I use it for is to assess fighters. I know we've seen the regional tape, but this is also an opportune time to sit back with an ice cold beverage, the notepad handy, and observe what's taking place inside of the octagon. Yes, there are a few spots where you could potentially lock in some fight doesn't go the distance lines. The Pacheco Silva fight tonight, I'm looking forward to that fight. That's a fight where you have two boxers, but then you have Silva, who's not necessarily the most well-rounded fighter. He's coming in there. Angel Pacheco. I'm not sleeping on Angel Pacheco. I was watching his fights. It's interesting how he likes Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. or Julio Cesar Chavez. You watch the Mexican boxers and how they like to work inside of a phone booth, and he's been able to do that. I personally, that was my first love growing up. My father, as a young child, used to sit me in front of the pay-per-view events where Mike Tyson was taking on Razor Ruddock and others. And then I developed an appreciation for the fights. Ended up going out to Las Vegas, and I watched Manny Pacquiao taking on Miguel Cotto in person there. So that lit a fire within me, and I have an appreciation for the sweet science. We'll say that. At the end of the day, it is you against you. Man, Shady, you're on fire this evening. Great, excellent points. I echo your sentiment. Any bums in here? No. Hey, you know what? I believe we've got a good crowd, and that's what I'd like. I'd like us to be able to bounce ideas off of one another. And the day that you think you know everything, the day that you have delusions of grandeur, is the day you should walk away from this aspect of the game and aspect of life. You should be a constant learner, always looking to improve, acknowledge your losses, and take one one event, one fight at a time. So that's what I'm doing. Let's see. Let's look at a couple of other potential matchups here that are on my fridge here, and then we'll get going so that everybody can get out there and enjoy Dana White's Contender Series. All right, what's the most memorable fight card that I've seen in person? I would say, honestly, the Pride 33 fight when Nogueira lost to Sokaju, and when Nick Diaz beat Takanori Gomi. I was at that event when Alistair Overeem beat. Well, no, when Alistair Overeem got brutally knocked out to Mauricio Shogun Hua. That was a special night. Also, watching Chris Weidman lock in the choke against Kelvin Gastelum at Nassau Coliseum, that was an interesting moment. Watching Ryan Bader lose to Rumble Johnson in dramatic fashion. I was at that. The Sumu Derji Matt Schnell fight is up there. That was one of the best fights I've ever seen live, to be honest. I've seen many fights in person. But we could talk boxing in the 80s and 90s all day. Roberto Duran. Man, Marvin Hagler. That was my father's favorite fighter was Marvin Hagler growing up, and I had an appreciation for his fight against Tommy Hearns, and it's a great sport, man. I have an appreciation for everybody in the chat here. How about Ion Cutelaba against Felipe Lins? Man, Cutelaba, one round fighter. He's tough for one round. You remember when he fought Glover Teixeira, and Glover's right before the fight says, "Not today, not today. It's not going to happen." And that's one of the greatest moments. In fact, I'll retweet that after I get off of this stream. That really rings true, and not only for the younger fighter in Cutelaba, but also generationally speaking, you had someone from the old guard in Glover Teixeira who was standing his ground, and his back was against the wall in that fight. If you go back and watch it, I'd love to see what the odds were on that fight. So it's going to be time to get going here, though, folks. 7:40. We've had quite the stream. I'd say it's been a successful one. So thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video, and we'll keep this going. We'll bring it back next week, and we'll continue this journey. So thank you, my brothers. Have a great day. Enjoy the fights.